Ricci tonight, hundreds of thousands of people in the Maritimes are still without power today, following post-tropical storm Fiona.
I don't think anybody had any idea it would be this severe.
We'll have the latest on the aftermath of the storm that brought fierce winds, heavy rain, and serious infrastructure damage across Atlantic Canada. Plus,
I and everybody else needs to get educated about these issues so that this doesn't happen.
An event honors Canadian Forces members and first responders who have lost their battle to post-traumatic stress disorder. And with vaccine uptake for children lower than expected, we speak to an expert about what could be contributing to these numbers.
This is CBC Late Night News.
We begin tonight in Newfoundland, where the mayor of Port aux Basques is comparing his storm-ravaged community to a war zone. Now, a massive cleanup effort is underway. Malone Mullen has more.
One for that one.
Destruction, debris, boulders and rocks where houses once sat. That was the reality for residents in this tiny Newfoundland outport, who quickly realized that Saturday's catastrophic storm wasn't just a bad dream. It was the storm of a lifetime, though, one that smashed weather records. Fiona came barreling in. No amount of boarded-up windows or sandbags could stop the sea from consuming these houses by its shore. Many remained inside them overnight Friday, ignoring pleas from the town to evacuate. They were in for a severe awakening when a sudden storm surge crashed through windows, flattened walls, and carried some houses off entirely.
I don't think anybody had any idea it would be this severe. I mean, this was an absolute howitzer.
Renee Roy was in the heart of it. The local newspaper editor took this now famous photo of a house teetering on the edge of the Atlantic. People fled, sirens wailing as the sea kept pushing its way into town.
Absolutely terrified and screaming that the buildings were gone and people were gone. People were in them. What can you do? You just get out of the way.
About 200 people slept with friends and family on higher ground last night, some in an emergency shelter. This morning, volunteer fire crews helped homeowners access what was left of their belongings, picking through the rubble, looking for anything Fiona had left behind.
There was boards, glass everywhere, seaweed. You had to like push it away because it was this thick all over the kitchen floor, living room floor.
Simone Renahan spent the day scouring her neighbor's house for anything that didn't get wet. She's bagged it up and brought it home to clean so it doesn't rust.
The stuff in here I need to check and wash here on the floor, dishes, stainless steel. Her bikes are all, the bikes were downstairs, so I don't want them to rust. Why are you doing all this? Because I'm a neighbor. I'm a neighbor. Gotta try. Help out when you can.
It's only one example of how this town has treated this tragedy, with all hands on deck. Malone Mullen, CBC News, Port aux Basques.
The Premier of Prince Edward Island is preaching patience tonight. Conditions remain unsafe across much of the island. Officials say one person has died from an undetermined cause, believed to be from an incident involving a generator. Katie Nicholson has the story.
When you've got no power, it's breakfast on a barbecue.
I've fallen back on a lot of skills learned in Girl Guides in elementary school, so that's been fun.
More than 90% of islanders have been without electricity for 2 days.
We've prepared well for 48 hours, modestly for 72 hours, but after that we really need fresh food and heat.
This was the first day it's been safe enough for Maritime Electric to survey its transmission lines and poles, which snapped like matchsticks. When might power be restored?
I would be misleading if I gave you an answer.
Gas is also in short supply, prompting long lineups for precious petrol for cars and home generators.
A lot of people are out of it right now and people are phoning from all over trying to see if we're open.
Fallen trees line the roads. Historic storm surge sucked away parts of bridges. Boats tossed from the ocean on top of what used to be wharves. Cottages have been smashed apart. This barn ripped open as though by a giant can opener, now a write-off.
If you look from the other side, I mean, both ends of the barn are completely gone. And all the winter's hay, which was just put in, over the last month, is gone.
Gone too, this shop that used to sell work from local artists. Now people pull some of its wares from the muck, carefully laid here as a little tribute.
I've been kind of adding stuff as I find it.
North Rustico Harbor, an important gateway for some 30 lobster boats, pulverized.
It's crazy. It's just permanent damage. Shoreline's just, it's not going to be the same after this. I don't know if they won't be getting the boats out this year.
Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Charlottetown.
Sophia Kambalia from the Weather Network joins us now for a first look at the forecast. And Sophia, you've also been tracking Fiona. What's the latest?
Yeah, it's been a busy weekend and unbelievable, devastating images there. It's almost hard to watch, putting yourself in the position of so many of those homeowners. But there's something I want to impress on everybody. The transition between hurricane to post-tropical cyclone did little to actually weaken the impacts of Fiona. Really, the only difference is the steering mechanisms in the upper levels of the atmosphere. The wind field of Fiona still covered the entirety of Atlantic Canada. We've talked a little bit about the power outages, but let's go over some of the numbers here. At the peak, Fiona had 500,000 people without power, nearly all of PEI and Nova Scotia. And then the records continue to fall by the wayside with this historic storm that is one of the strongest in Canadian history. We've talked a little bit about the storm surge that carried those houses away. Let me click back here. Nearly 2-meter high storm surge responsible for carrying those homes away. Nearly 200 millimeters of rain in some places and nearly 180 kilometer-an-hour winds. Wave heights were recorded out near Sable Island at about 15 stories high, rather. So incredible, incredible numbers. And the trough that brought Fiona's track right to Atlantic Canada is actually responsible for all the fall-like rainy active weather that we have had today. It'll be a rinse and repeat day Monday and Tuesday with a few breaks of sun, but cool, windy, and rainy. Talia.
Thanks, Sophia.
You're welcome.
The Legacy Awards were celebrated tonight on CBC. It's the first major Canadian award show to honor outstanding achievements of Black Canadians in the field of arts, entertainment, and sports. Meg Roberts was on tonight's black carpet and has more.
For the first time in Canadian history, an award show that celebrates and showcases Black talent. Stars walk down the black carpet here in Toronto tonight ahead of a show that aired on CBC.
We honor and pay tribute to our ancestors of African origin and descent.
The new awards show is co-founded by two Scarborough natives, Shamir Anderson and Stefan James, through their organization, the Black Academy. CBC caught up with them earlier tonight.
You got to see it to believe it. And so the power of being able to empower our people, put them on this stage, give them an opportunity to give testimony, to share their journeys with Black Canadians all over this country. It's a very, very powerful thing and something that's not lost on my brother and myself.
It feels surreal, but long overdue, and we're very excited to be amongst such incredible artists, incredible people. It didn't just take a village to pull this off, it took a metropolis, and we're so grateful for each and every human that pulled this together. Our crazy idea that's now a reality.
Show tonight featured performances, award presentations, and tributes honoring both established and emerging Black Canadian talent. Some notable awards this evening went to Canadian Olympic medalist Andre DeGrasse, Canadian sports reporter Kayla Gray, and actor, filmmaker, and film festival founder Fabien Cola. The event receiving an overwhelming positive response from attendees.
I think we can have the mainstream award shows that we know and that we love, and then we can also have this very specific space to honor certain voices and certain talents that may get recognized or may not get recognized by those mainstream spaces.
It's incredible. You always hear that anecdote that stop begging for a seat at the table, build your own table. This is our table. We got a table. We made this table.
To see this happen in my town, in my city, in my country, with my fellow Canadians for the first time is overwhelming, and it's about time, and it's joyous.
Co-founders of the event say this is not just a moment in history, but an effort to work year-round to honor and empower Black Canadians and to inspire younger generations. Meg Roberts, CBC News, Toronto.
In less than 10 hours, bivalent booster vaccines will officially be available to anyone 18 and over. The Ministry of Health says these vaccines offer a more targeted protection against COVID-19 Omicron variants. Experts say those 65 or older and people who are immunocompromised should get their shots.
We can get vaccines into arms. It takes community engagement, sound communication, and lowering barriers to the vaccinations. We've done it before very, very successfully for dose 1 and dose 2. And I really think it would be extremely important to do that, especially for these booster doses, especially as we're entering the later fall and winter months where we know there's going to be a rise in COVID, and especially in the context of having our healthcare system really stretched.
Also tomorrow, a new Pfizer vaccine for children from the age of 6 months to 5 years will be available. Now, previously, only Moderna's shot was approved for that age group by Health Canada, but recent provincial data shows only about 6% of eligible children under 5 years old have had a shot. Dr. Anna Banerjee joins us now. She's a pediatrician, infectious disease specialist, and associate professor at the University of Toronto. Thanks so much for joining us. How does this number compare to where experts thought we'd be at this point?
I think that experts believe that there would be much more demand and much more uptake in the vaccine.
And what do you think is contributing to these low numbers?
I think there's multiple things. I think one is fatigue. We're all tired of COVID. I think there's a perception that children don't get COVID or have really mild disease, which is partially true. Most kids have mild disease, but some kids can get quite sick with it. I think that there's also some vaccine hesitancy. There also could be people that aren't aware that young infants or 6 months to 5 years are eligible now. There's a lot of reasons, and I think there's still a lot of that. Oh, it's a new vaccine, messenger RNA, and I want to protect my child and not give them something quote experimental. So there's a lot of reasons why.
And so, what are some of the concerns from experts like yourself if we don't see a rise in uptake?
Well, I think that in some ways the horse is out of the barn. It's out of the gate. I think the best time for the kids to be vaccinated was before they started school. And now that you have children not wearing masks, kids can go back to school with COVID, if their symptoms are better. We're not testing it, or if they are being tested, if their symptoms are better, we're not testing it, or if they are being tested, it's not being reported to the government. So the rapid tests are not being reported. So there's probably a lot of COVID out there. And again, I think most kids are going to have mild illness. Probably some of them have already had exposure to it and have built up immunity. But I think that there's still a long season ahead, where kids will be exposed, will continue to be exposed. And so I think that even though it's, I think, late in the game, I think it's not too late.
And so you say it's not too late. What do you think some solutions might be?
Well, I think we should do what we've done before. I think children should be wearing masks. They should get vaccinated. I think they should for COVID and for influenza, especially when recently we don't have enough fever medications. Imagine your child having for COVID and for influenza, especially when recently we don't have enough fever medications. Imagine your child having influenza or COVID and not having access to Tylenol or Advil. That would be very upsetting. Vaccination, I think things like improving air quality, that should have been done already. Dealing with the class sizes, that should have been done already. So at this point in time, other than wearing masks and getting vaccinated, there's not a lot else at this point to do. But I think that there's a lot of COVID out in schools right now.
Thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us tonight.
Thank you. Take care.
A Brampton man has died after being shot in Vaughan early Saturday morning. It happened in a parking lot in the area of Interchange Way and Highway 7.
And we believe there was a large crowd here at the time of the incident, so we are urging any potential witnesses to please come forward and speak with our homicide unit. Even if you didn't see exactly what happened, any piece of information at this time will help us with the investigation.
Police say the victim was initially transported to hospital with life-threatening injuries after the shooting. 20-year-old Moses Alfonso Wright was later pronounced dead. No suspect information is known at this time, but police say they have unconfirmed reports of a blue vehicle being involved in the incident. A motorcyclist is dead after colliding with a bus in Toronto. It happened near the intersection of Dufferin and Gibson Streets around 10:30 last night. Officers say the collision knocked the motorcyclist off his bike and under a TTC bus. Police are asking anyone with information to contact them. A Royal Canadian Legion in East York held a candlelight service today to honor military veterans, first responders, and others who have died by suicide after serving their communities. The event aims to raise awareness about the tragic consequences of post-traumatic stress disorder. Ryan Patrick Jones has more.
It was a somber gathering to honor the fallen. Not those who died on the battlefield or in the line of duty, but the men and women who took their own lives after losing the battle with PTSD.
I don't think that the public really realizes what people go through. They can't deal with the demons that are within them, and they lose hope. And we have to reach out and make people aware that this is what happens to the men and women who serve us.
Organizers lit candles with photos of Canadian Armed Forces members who have died and read many of their names one by one to the sound of a bell tolling.
It's very much an opportunity for us to pause and reflect and understand the trauma that a lot of the people that we rely on suffer, and some people are able to overcome and others not.
Research shows military veterans, as well as paramedics, police, and firefighters, are more likely to experience PTSD than the general population. According to the Department of Defense, around 300 male Canadian Forces members died by suicide between 1995 and 2021. That number only includes confirmed cases, so it could be an underestimate.
We have lost more members who served in Afghanistan to suicide, deaths by suicide, than the 158 soldiers that were killed in theater in Afghanistan. So it's a very shocking statistic.
The Royal Canadian Legion wants people who are thinking about suicide to know you're not alone.
When you're in that moment, you don't feel there's a solution. But reaching out and talking to somebody who's been there, or someone with an ear, so that they can get them to stop thinking just for a moment so that it doesn't happen. It saves them, it saves their family.
It's a message they hope to spread to prevent more tragedies among those who serve. Ryan Patrick Jones, CBC News, Toronto.
The City of Toronto is awarding spiritual leader Aga Khan the key to the city.
The work that His Highness does to improve the lives of all people, regardless of their birthplace, their background, their religious beliefs, through global charitable efforts focusing on health and education and financial inclusion and infrastructure development, are extraordinary.
Toronto opened the Aga Khan Museum in 2014. It's the only museum in North America dedicated to Islamic arts. The city also renamed the portion of Winford Drive between Don Mills Road and the east side of the Don Valley. The city also renamed the portion of Winford Drive between Don Mills Road and the east side of the Don Valley Parkway overpass to Aga Khan Boulevard. It commemorates the 65th anniversary of the Aga Khan's accession. And today in Vaughan, the rain didn't stop dedicated folks from fundraising for healthcare. The annual Run for Vaughan saw dozens of people moving for charity.
We support the healthcare. We have seen the need of healthcare a lot more in COVID. Our youth are always excited and very passionate about taking part in these initiatives so they can have impact on the society on a larger scale.
They're raising money for the Cortellucci Vaughan Hospital. The first run was held in 2003.
We got the first run going and we raised, I believe, the first year $25,000. So on pace as of this year, we've raised over $1.3 million for the hospital so far.
The run was hosted at the North Maple Regional Park. The Blue Jays took the win against the Tampa Bay Rays today.
There's a deep drive to left field. Get up, ball. Get out of here, and way gone.
George Springer hit 2 home runs, the game wrapping with a final score of 7-1. The Jays split this series with 2 games each. Tomorrow, they begin a 3-game series at home against the Yankees. Only 9 games remain until the playoffs. And the music will be going in February when Rihanna takes the stage for the Super Bowl halftime show. The singer, originally from Barbados, was named the headliner for the NFL championship game. She'll have big shoes to fill after this year's show was headlined by Snoop Dogg, Mary J. Blige, Eminem, 50 Cent, and Dr. Dre. Time for a short break. We'll be right back.
Don't you feel the passion ready to explode?
The CN Tower is lighting up green and white tonight. It's being done in honor of both the Rosh Hashanah Jewish holiday and as the province marks Franco-Ontarian Day. It's the 47th Franco-Ontarian Day, and it was recognized in the city earlier today.
Chemise, oui, il dit je mets ma chemise.
A celebration of French music happening on the Danforth today. It was the 5th and final day of Francophone festivities. This was the first major celebration of Franco-Ontarian Day since the pandemic began. Sophia's back now with our extended forecast, and I'm hoping for some more sunshine this week. We didn't really get any of that today.
Yeah, you'll have to look to the latter half of the week. It's a couple really chilly, rainy, windy, very typical fall-like days ahead. And I preface this by showing you a snapshot of archived radar of what today kind of looked like. Bits of breaks of some of that sun for a couple hours, and then you get that downpour again. It's a rinse and repeat story for the next few days. And we see a lot of rain around the Lake Erie and southern shores for today. You could see a few pops of rain into the overnight period, but then really it's more of a Huron shores story for the really heavy rain from Monday into Tuesday. But everybody's going to see on and off rain and showers for the next 36 hours or so. But it could be worse. A lot of the rain, especially on the Huron shores, if this was colder, would be lake effect snow right now. That's, you know, what could have been about a half meter of lake effect snow. So right now it is rain, about 10 to 20 millimeters, widespread around the GTA, a little bit more up to cottage country and into the nation's capital region. You also will feel the wind as well. It will be quite gusty coming from the north, 50 to 60 kilometers an hour, and there will be enough upper level spin in the atmosphere come Tuesday to maybe even kickstart a non-severe water spout or two around the Lake Erie and Lake Ontario shorelines. But then things clear quite nicely when it comes to the rain on Wednesday. Talia, you will see the sunshine, but you will also feel bitter cold, a shot of Arctic air for a couple days. Look at the Wednesday overnight conditions in cottage country. That is hovering around the freezing mark. Patchy frost advisories will be out. You're going to want to cover your tomato plants in your garden if you've got them. After the chilly down spell, Wednesday overnight into Thursday, you're clear and building by a couple degrees by the end of this work week, Talia. Typical kind of fall week, maybe a degree or two below seasonal.
I'm liking that Saturday weather, though. I'll focus on that.
Yeah, we'll keep our
Sophia.
fingers crossed.
Thank you. And that's our show for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. You can stay caught up on news anytime on our website, cbcnews.ca. Good night.